Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the JayBee Milly channel. I am JayBee and today we're going to be doing our final breakdown of the new Velma screenshots that we've been seeing. Huge shout out to Scooby_News and Velma Brazil on Twitter as always. I'll leave a link to both of them in the description down below, but they get the credit for kind of presenting these screenshots to the world. So this is for episode 6 called The Sins of the Fathers and Some of the Mothers, which is very intriguing. But bear in mind, when you go into this video, we don't have any sponsorships or any review copies, so we don't know what's going on, but I am going to give a spoiler warning purely for the fact that it could be that we correctly predict something, and if you're the type of person that's completely against spoilers, it may be a good idea to click off this video for the moment and then come back after you've seen the episode and maybe tell us what we got right, what we got wrong. So, kind of breaking this down, this is not a very informative screenshot, I'll be honest. We obviously see Velma's dad to the left, Velma in the middle, and Fred to the right. This seems to be in the middle of some type of rousing speech from Velma, as both Velma's dad and Fred look quite dumbfounded, quite shocked at what she's saying. Now, the last that we saw is Velma and Fred were together, but Fred seemed angry and Velma was in despair at something. It could follow on from that scene. It doesn't look like it, but it's always possible that they just went to the basement of whatever building they were in. And by the title, it obviously could be that Velma suspects that her parents are involved within the overall mystery. So maybe this is, Fred and Velma's dad's office that they've broken into for clues and something. Really, there's not a lot to tell with all of these screenshots at the moment, which I kind of like because it leaves us some more room to speculate, it leaves us some more room for mystery and surprise, and really the title is the most intriguing of all, so we're going to hold on to that throughout the rest of the screenshots. Now, when I initially saw this, I did actually think that this was maybe going to be a plot twist or some type of complication where we see that Velma's mum is the headmistress of the school, but I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I'm not going to discount it because we can see she's got the short hair. Obviously, the skin tones are quite similar, and I don't think Velma would necessarily be so relaxed getting told off by the headmistress. It seems a bit unlikely, but then again, if they're, taking it that Velma's a bit moody, maybe she's a bit snarky, which obviously we have seen in stuff like Mystery Incorporated, and even going back to the new Scooby-Doo movies, she kind of had a bit of an edge to her. This could be what's going on, but then I think back to what we saw from episode 2, The Candy Woman, when there's seemingly a female nursing a passed out or an asleep Mr. Dinkley. And it doesn't line up because that woman she had long hair, it was in a ponytail, and we can assume that it's Velma's mum because she has the same hair tone as Velma, which for her skin tone is kind of bizarre. I am just putting that out there as, a person of colour. I've not met anyone that's that shade with that hair colour, so it could be dyed, bear that in mind, but I don't think so. But that aside, it does seem like a different woman, so whether this is perhaps Velma's older sister that's the headmistress, or an unrelated character, we don't know, but it is a bit interesting that in screenshot 1 we saw Velma interacting with her dad, and screenshot 2, maybe the mum, but I'm not sure. I don't know how we get from point 1 to point 2. It's interesting. It is interesting. The only thing other of note, you can clearly not see anything on the posters on the walls to the left-hand side. That's not really revealing at all. But you can see there's some graffiti on the locker, and in the love heart there's a J plus an S. I don't know what this is going to signify, if anything at all. It could just be background decoration. I mean, we can speculate it could possibly be Jones plus someone, so maybe that's Fred's love interest. It could also be a reference like Joe Ruby, Ken Spears, J and S, Joe versus Joe plus Spears. So maybe it's a homage to the creators. I don't really know. It's a difficult one. If you know any creators or anything like that could connect to, please let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, that's kind of all we can get from this screenshot. this is, I think, going to be the screenshot that explains what these comic book edges mean, and I think it could be referring to a flashback sequence. Because I don't know if anyone else has picked up on this, but I think Velma looks and seems quite a bit younger here. So I do think that this is going to be a bit of a flashback to explain some type of exposition, or to maybe give us some type of clue to what is up with that title. That's what we're coming back to, the sins of the fathers and some of the mothers. So maybe we're going to go dark here. Maybe this is the first time that Velma knew that her dad was having some type of affair or some nefarious liaison with a villain. I don't know. I mean, this definitely does come across as that typical father too busy working trope. So you've got Velma looking quite happy. It's a day out with her dad, but he's on the phone, maybe too busy answering work messages. We don't know. That definitely does seem to be the vibe. But there's not much else that we can say apart from that this is going to be some type of exposition scene. The restaurant or cantina that they're at is something Nibbles, and the logo looks a bit like a slice of pizza, so clearly some type of family diner. There's some woman sat at the counter, which doesn't really tell us much, but I kind of thought it was interesting that they do definitely look like Shaggy, not Norval, bear in mind, but the hair colour is the same as the Shaggy that we know. They've got green and brown. Maybe it's just a visual Easter egg, but that could be it. Now, another visual Easter egg that I don't think I've seen anyone even point out. Now, we did get a shout out to the Jetsons in the first teaser trailer, and I don't think it's this, but the way that there's like poles sticking up and something on top of the poles in that portrait behind the woman, it kind of reminds me of Orbit City a bit. It'd be really funny to find out if maybe that is a visual reference to the Jetsons and Orbit City. I don't know, I just thought it was interesting. So, yeah. And for our penultimate screenshot, this is very intriguing. My initial thoughts were that this is perhaps a flashback sequence, so almost not from the point of view of the audience seeing the events, but almost like an insert of that character revisiting past experiences. Almost think Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol being transported as a character to past events, but obviously can't interfere, can't influence anything, and the people around them can't see Ebenezer because of course he is just in a 3D simulation almost of past events. At first, that's what I was thinking that this is going to be, and maybe this was like the build up to an accident that Velma's parents would go on to have, but I don't think so. I mean, it does seem bizarre that her parents, and I do think that is her mum in the car, because it is the same woman that was seen nursing the dad, on the couch scene. I mean, I even thought that the baby in the back was Velma as a young baby. But it just doesn't seem right. Like, I don't know. I mean, let me know if this is a bit bizarre to you. Even the position that they're at doesn't look like you could necessarily park there. So it's almost like they were in motion for a while. But then I find it a bit of a coincidence that Velma is just stood in that freeze frame to, by chance catch her parents driving that direction in the car. So they must be parked there, right? But then why do they look like they're gleefully enjoying, music from a long journey? It seems like something from the middle of the journey for them, but clearly Velma's either just been left or is just being picked up. It is difficult to say. I mean, one thing that I was maybe thinking, for all it wouldn't line up with the theory that these screenshots are in chronological order, the last episode we did see some type of sleepover going on, and I speculated that there were two different sleepovers. Now, there's every chance that I was wrong and it's only one sleepover, or the sleepovers merged, and so this could be Velma's parents picking her up from that sleepover, hence why she looks a bit frazzled and she has a suitcase with her. The backgrounds doesn't really add up, but maybe they went for lunch after. I mean, again, there's a lot debunking my theories, because even then, we did just see Velma in a diner, and now she's outside somewhere with like a taco sign. So I really don't know. I mean, she could have been in that diner in the present and then flashed back to when she was there before. It's interesting. This is definitely a decent little way to speculate on things. Now, to the right hand side, we can see a recording booth. So I don't know if that's going to factor into it or if that's just, general background filler. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I am going to theorize on maybe this one in more detail, but I really don't think there's anything else I can say, certainly not before release. But if you have any theories about this screenshot in particular, please do let me know. Okay, so adding to a bit of the confusion, it looks like we do pick up from the last screenshot, except they're back home. This is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, Velma's house. So she must have been picked up in that last screenshot from somewhere. So we know that. But also, they do look like they're on their way out again now. Because we've got the Velmas Mum with the papoose. They look like they're going out for a walk. I don't know. I'm really lost with this episode, I guess if they're going for that kind of teen comedy trope, it could be that they just came back and picked Velma up from a location subsequently. And that it could have been that thing like, oh my gosh, I've had a sleepover, the house is a mess. We're going to rush to get everything right until the parents come back. It could be that, but I'm not sure. It does look like they're on their way out though, does it not? But at the same time, we know it factors on from the last scene because they're dressed exactly the same. Although one thing that is actually really, really funny, I don't know if I just don't do this and it's actually normal, but if you compare this to the last screenshot, it very much looks like Velma's dad was driving the car with his backpack and straps still on. And that just struck me as a bit bizarre. And even those straps in general, they must have been on some type of hike or camping trip or something. I don't know, it just doesn't seem right. But we definitely know without a shadow of a doubt that this is Velma's house. So what they're doing, I don't really know. But we have sins of the fathers, some of the mothers, and these screenshots do seem to have relied quite heavily on Velma's parents. So I don't think this is any type of groundbreaking episode in terms of action, but I do think that this is going to be our character building episode where we have more insight to Velma's character, we have more clues going forward in terms of who's guilty, who isn't guilty, and something like that. I do think this is just going to be a personality episode as opposed to the villain's gonna do this, the villain's gonna do that. It's almost like, in like a Netflix Marvel show where there'd be one episode dedicated to the villain and their backstory. A little bit like that, but for Velma. I think this is going to be a heavy exposition episode. And there we have it. That kind of brings our journey to an end, which is really sad because I do love breaking these screenshots down. And in fact, it's actually been one of the most enjoyable series that we've had on the channel ever. And it's been an absolute privilege to have you guys on the ride for me, going into the comments, theorizing, speculating. It's been wonderful, and hopefully it doesn't have to end here. Hopefully there's more content on the way. Maybe it's the Velma series, maybe it's more mainline Scooby-Doo. We don't know, but fingers crossed. So, I guess the next Velma content we're planning to make is the road forward, what we would do if we were in charge of this premise, this show. But other than that, reviews are coming, trust me. But because we're in the UK, we don't have HBO Max, and quite frankly, I do reckon I'm a bit too incompetent and old to learn how to use VPNs and whatever. So I don't think we're going to get any of that. But it will come eventually, or we will watch it eventually, and so we will definitely get some reviews out for that. So yeah, if you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe to JayBee Milly, and we'll see you next time.